Hi everyone. We are going to be talking about primates this week. So we're going to have a section on primate diversity, and then the next slide set will be on primate behavior. So I'm going to do a couple of recordings for this lecture, but I'm not going to do a voice recording for the entire lecture. So as with last week, make sure that you're following along with the rest of the slides and filling in the blanks with readings from the textbook. So we are talking about primate diversity, and to start with, we'll talk about a little bit about primate distribution. So as it says here, there are approximately 190 species of non-human primates. As far as taxonomy goes, primates belong to the vertebrate class Mammalia, so we are mammals. And within mammals, we are members of the order Primates. So if you look at the map on the screen here, you can see the distribution of monkeys, apes, lemurs, lorises, etc., all of the primates. You can see just off the bat from looking at this distribution, we are almost overwhelmingly a tropical order. So with the exception of humans, because humans have moved into all areas of the planet, all other non-human primates occupy tropical regions. The only exception would be up here in Japan. There's a species of monkeys that are adapted to cold climates. But for the most part, with that exception, we're talking about tropically adapted animals. Okay, so let's talk about some primate characteristics. The first two terms here are terms that are going to be really important. They're definitely terms that are going to come up with a lot of frequency over the last couple of weeks of the block. Derived versus ancestral traits are traits that we can use to try to describe groupings of animals. So derived and ancestral traits are basically a way of looking at animal traits in terms of what types of traits are more recently evolved and which are more distantly evolved in the past. So the term ancestral just means any trait that's been around for a while, basically. If we were to give an example of an ancestral trait for primates, we might say having 4 limbs. So that's a characteristic called being a tetrapod. Tetrapods evolved something like 350, 400 million years ago. So that is an old characteristic. It's not something that distinguishes primates from other types of animals. Lots and lots and lots of animals have 4 legs. Derived, on the other hand, is basically something that is more recently evolved. Usually we use this term in reference to characteristics that distinguish one type of animal from another. So if we were to give an example of a derived characteristic that primates have, well, we might say that they have opposable toes and thumbs, opposable big toes and thumbs. This is a characteristic that evolved within primate evolution, within the last 60 million years of primate evolution, that makes primates unique. So when we're talking about ancestral versus derived traits, we're talking about sort of ancient characteristics versus characteristics that are distinguishing primates from other types of animals. So the second item, fur, meaning body hair, that is something that is obviously an ancestral trait. Primates share that trait with lots and lots of other types of animals. Even humans technically have body hair, even though we have much more sparse and fine body hair than other types of primates. We still do have body hair technically. The long gestation followed by a live birth is something that is a derived characteristic of primates. Long gestation, especially not the live birth part. The long gestation issue has to do with the size and complexity of our brains. So as primates, we on average across the board have larger, more complex brains than other types of animals. So the long gestation just means that in utero, that fetus is taking a longer period of time to fully grow and develop. And again, it's an accommodation for developing a large brain. Homeothermy just means warm-blooded, so that is obviously an ancestral characteristic. It's something that evolved a long time ago. The second to last item, encephalization, that is a reference again to the size and complexity of the brain. So as primates, we have large brains. Like if you look at our brain size relative to our body size, we have very, very large brains. We also have a higher degree of complexity to the brain. So encephalization is something that is a unique derived primate characteristic, meaning we have higher levels of intelligence than other types of animals. The generalized body plan, that's something that is an ancestral trait. Again, we just have 4 limbs. Each of those limbs has digits in the form of fingers and toes. That is a basic body plan that's seen across a lot of different types of animals. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about primate limbs. We have hands and feet that possess grasping ability. That is, again, a derived primate characteristic. That's not something that we share with a lot of other animals. You can see there a comparison of feet, ape and human feet there, ape and or other types of primate and human hands here. There are a lot of similarities. We have an opposable thumb just like all other primates. The differences here among all of these different types of primate limbs is basically proportion. So some of us have longer fingers, some of us have longer palms, some of us have longer thumbs. It varies from species to species. The foot comparison here, kind of similar. We are unique because we do not have an opposable or a divergent big toe. That's something that we as a group have lost over the past 4 million years or so. It's something that goes along with being a biped. So walking on 2 feet means that we do not have that grasping ability to our foot anymore. So having an opposable thumb gives primates something called a precision grip. Basically, this means that we have a lot of rotation. We have not only an opposable thumb, but we have a lot of rotation and flexibility in our hands. The precision grip, the example that I have here on the slide of the precision grip is a human picking up a pin or a needle or something like that. That kind of motion is made possible by having this opposable, really flexible joint at the base of the thumb. In terms of primate diets and teeth, we have basic omnivory. Omnivory just means a mix of plant foods and animal foods. All primate species are omnivorous. Some eat more meat than others, but generally we all eat the same mix of types of foods. The examples I have here on the slide, the black and white colobus monkey is more prone to eating vegetation. They eat a lot of leaves in their diet. And then the common chimpanzee is one of the biggest meat eaters outside of the human species within the primates. Something that helps us to eat a wide range of types of food is having something called generalized dentition. So you can see here on the slide a comparison of these 2 tooth types with these little drawings. The homodont teeth here, homo meaning same, dont meaning teeth. Homodont means animals that have all the same teeth in their mouth. So if you look in the mouth of an alligator, for example, it might have teeth of different sizes, but they're all the same shape. We have heterodont teeth, hetero meaning different, and dont, of course, meaning teeth. Heterodont meaning we have a mouthful of different types of teeth. So we have incisors, canines, premolars, and molars. And if you look inside the mouths of other types of primates, they all basically look the same. The teeth are kind of different sizes, different proportions, that kind of thing, but we all basically have the same set of heterodont teeth. In terms of our senses and brain, we have a much higher degree of reliance on sight than other animals do. So other mammals especially tend to be much more dependent upon their sense of smell. They have a better sense of smell than primates, but we have a better sense of vision. So things about primate vision that make it unique, we have color vision. Most primates have some degree of color vision. We also have stereoscopic vision and binocular vision. So stereoscopic vision means that basically it describes a type of vision where your brain can register a sense of 3-dimensional shapes. So basically it gives us a sense of depth perception that other kinds of animals don't have. Now that stereoscopic vision, that ability to perceive three-dimensional objects, is made possible because we also have something called binocular vision. So binocular vision just means that we have two fields of vision, as you can see here in this slide, and those fields of vision, this for the right and this for the left, they overlap with each other. So you can see we have the right side is blue and the left side is yellow, and then where they overlap is green. Those overlapping fields of vision are what give us this stereoscopic depth perception that we have. So again, we are more visually oriented, and we have these evolved characteristics that help us to be able to see well. We have reduced olfaction. This term olfaction just means it's related to the sense of smell. So we have, again, less of a reliance on the sense of smell, more of a reliance on the sense of vision. And then I used the term earlier, encephalization. That is, again, a reference to the expansion and increased complexity of the brain. So we have these big brains and we have good vision, and these are distinct derived characteristics that are different from what we see in other types of animals. In terms of maturation, learning, and behavior, that large brain leads to different patterns of growth and development. So we tend to mature slower. It takes a longer time to build that large, complex brain. We have more of a dependence on learning. So we have more flexible and learned behavior, more complex social behaviors. Basically, it takes a long time for a primate to learn how to become a primate from a behavioral standpoint. Okay, so the question, we've talked a little bit about these primate adaptations. The question is, where did they come from and why did they evolve? So there are these three hypotheses to explain what exactly has happened, why we see the suite of traits evolve, 50 or so million years ago. The first one, the arboreal hypothesis, basically states that these traits evolved specifically for life in trees. So the term arboreal is a reference to trees. So the idea is that the grasping hands, the good vision, the stereoscopic binocular vision, the depth perception, the omnivory, all of that kind of thing evolved for life in the trees. The second, the visual predation hypothesis, holds basically that all of those things I just mentioned, the depth perception, the increased reliance on vision, the grasping hands, all of that kind of stuff are related to being visual predators. So being able to be hunters, essentially. The last one, the angiosperm radiation hypothesis, holds that we evolved kind of in lockstep, or as we evolved basically as a species adapted to living on and around angiosperms. So an angiosperm is just a flowering plant, and we see evidence in the fossil record of primates evolving and all of these characteristics evolving in the primate lineage as a consequence or related to the spread of flowering plants. So the idea is just that, flowering plants produce fruit. We have color vision, which allows us to see when fruit is ripe. Other types of animals live around fruit, or insects rather, live around fruit that we might want to predate. So there are basically it has to do with what's going on with the evolution of flowering plants. So one thing to note is that none of these models are mutually exclusive. They could all be true. We don't know for sure. We can't go back in time and see exactly what was going on. So we can speculate, but we can't really prove any of these to be true or not. As I said before, we are generally omnivorous animals. We have heterodont dentition, meaning we have a mouth full of different types of teeth. Those 4 types of teeth in humans and in other primates include incisors, canines, premolars, and molars. You can see here on the slide, the picture here is a comparison of lots of different types of primate teeth. You can see again that there's some variation in terms of the size of those teeth, but there are also a lot of similarities. Okay, so one of the last items we're going to talk about here is the concept of a dental formula. A dental formula is just a statement of how many of each type of teeth an animal has. We have a little bit of variation within the primate order. If we're comparing apes and Old World monkeys to New World monkeys, we see some differences here. So apes, Old World monkeys, and humans have a dental formula that is written as this notation that you see here, 2, 1, 2, 3. 2, 1, 2, 3 are, again, the numbers of each type of tooth in a quadrant of the mouth. So if we're looking here at the slide, we're not counting all of the teeth in the entire mouth. We're dividing the mouth into 4 sections, into quadrants, and we're counting the number of each type of teeth per quadrant. So 2, 1, 2, 3, meaning 2 incisors, 1 canine, 2 premolars, and 3 molars. So ICPM is the type of the order of the type of teeth: incisor, canine, premolar, molar. So that is the dental formula for monkeys, or for Old World monkeys, for apes and humans. In the New World, so the monkeys that are that live in North and South America, they basically have an extra premolar. So their dental formula is 2, 1, 3, 3. That's again incisors, canines, premolars, and molars. So a lot of similarities among all of these types of primates in terms of what type of teeth they have, but there's a little bit of variation in those teeth as well. Other examples of variation in dentition, we have tooth combs found in some prosimians. So lemurs, this is a picture of a lemur mouth here. They have something called a tooth comb. So you can see the drawing of it. You can see what's going on a little bit better in the drawing. Even though these teeth look totally different than what we see in monkeys and apes, they have the same basic dental system here. So we have incisors in the middle. They're being noted by these little eyes here. We do have canines present as well. The combination of those 6 teeth, the 4 incisors and the 2 canines, forms a little comb, and you can see how it looks in this living animal here. These teeth out to the side that look kind of like superficially like canines, those are actually the premolars. The role of this tooth comb is basically that it allows the animal to groom itself. So social primates, monkeys, and apes groom each other. Mutual grooming is kind of a complex behavior that is displayed in monkeys and apes. But lemurs, they groom themselves. So they have this modification in their mouths to allow them to clean their own fur. There is also differences in the teeth. Some primates have what are called bilophodont molars, and some have something called Y5 molars. This is basically a reference to the number of cusps on the molars. So the cusps are the little pillowy parts. If you run your tongue along the chewing surface of your molars, it's lumpy. Those cusps are the lumps. There is variation in the number of cusps. So we won't get into any more detail than that. We'll just say that there's variation in how these teeth are arranged, and there's variation in the individual tooth morphology itself. So we'll stop here for now. Again, you'll want to fill in the blanks. There are lots of slides I'm not going to cover in voice recordings. We will do a second portion or a second video recording for some of the other slides in a moment, but again, make sure that you're following along in the textbook and doing the readings.